Hey everyone, after a small break, we are finally back with another episode of Survivor NCSU, and that means another exit interview. Today, I'm joined with the latest person voted out of Survivor NCSU Season 2, Caleb. Caleb, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Andres?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. Really excited to hop into this interview because I know there's a lot you might want to talk about. I kind of want to start with the little bomb you dropped there at the end of the episode after you were voted off. You don't actually go to NC State, and it was found out by cast, production, everyone that you actually are a student at App State. Can you give some more context about that whole thing?
I actually have different friends who go to NC State. So I was just visiting for a weekend, and me and one of my friends who actually I think may have been in a later season, Tyler, we looked at the poster and I was like, "Oh gosh, you should do this. This is great." But he is like comp sci and a lot of harder classes than I do at app. And so I was like, "Yeah, I probably can't do it." So I just thought to myself, "Well, I might as well do it." And I did. So I found someone who lived around the NC State area who like went tap as well and just carpooled with them. And yeah, that was about it.
I
I
mean,
was yeah.
do you think like not going to NC State made the game harder for you? Like I would assume that like there's definitely a social aspect about being from the same school and having that kind of shared experience. Did you ever feel like a disconnect there having to lie about it?
I did, and like it was more difficult, not strategically for me, because my lie, I used all of my friends' information, including the dorm, which Ryder, someone on my tribe, actually lived in the same dorm. And I was thinking, crap, he's going to ask to hang out after this, or like see my dorm or something, and see that my name's not up there. And apparently, I think Mark was also formerly, I forget what you call it, like the RA person for like the same dorm hall. So like all three of us were sort of connected to this one dorm. I don't even remember the name of it anymore. So like I was just trying to really keep my stories straight. But it was hard meeting people like that and thinking, oh man, they're going to ask to hang out, or I'm like talking like we're going to, get food after this or something. I have to go back home after this. So that made it a bit more difficult, but I definitely still loved meeting everyone, and I feel like it also gave me a chance to really not hold back as much because I didn't have to worry about what people thought as much, like after it was all over. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like it went both ways.
absolutely. Even though you didn't go to NC State, I want to talk about your starting tribe a little bit because you were placed on Vega, the designated STEM tribe of the season. And we kind of saw throughout the pre-merge that members of your tribe got picked off one by one until ultimately you were one of the three members of Vega to make it at the merge. Like I've asked this in other interviews, but what was it about the dynamic of that tribe that made it, for lack of a better term, so like disastrous and dysfunctional?
I really think, honestly, it was a lot of people who were not willing to be on the bottom. I think that's what it boiled down to because for someone I know on my side of it, it was my main people were Aziza and Quinn, who were more of a duo, as we saw. And I also grew closer to Jameson as we were swing votes on our tribe. But I was just looking over and thinking, man, I know Lee and Jameson are close. I already see Maggie and Lee are close. And then Ryder's close with them. I don't want to be number five. And I bet that someone like Ryder was at my side and thinking, if I did have Jameson, that's another number five. And nobody wanted to be on that bottom. So I think it caused a lot of close bonds, but very small bonds. And ultimately, it was a bunch of chains or links on a chain, and it didn't really amount to anything actually circling around. No one was willing to actually put all of their chips together. So I think that was a part of it. I also think another part is we never got a puzzle before the tribe swap. I feel like if that was the ending of the second challenge, I'm fairly confident we would have won immunity. But at the same time, I don't think I'm allowed to complain because I was one of the lucky ones who made the merge.
Mhm.
But yeah,
I mean, yeah, like you mentioned on that starting tribe, the STEM tribe, you were placed on a tribe with Jameson and Lee, two returning players. Were you familiar at all with their game coming into the season, and like how did you plan to maneuver around that after you found out?
yeah, no, I did watch the first season before showing up. A part of the reason I didn't want to do the first season is because I wanted to watch it before I did a season. But I did honestly, I felt like working with Jameson for me was I was one of the few people who went to the season knowing his game, and I didn't think he was a snake just because he went so far with one person will. And I thought, okay, if I can just get him right away and be that one person, if I can just have someone loyal to me, I don't really care if they're a threat because I know I'm going to play like a threat. I can't play any other way. I mean, I walked in there and I was already one of the tallest people. I was thinking, oh yeah, I have a tank top on under this. That's going to go perfectly on the smart people tribe. So I knew like late game, even if our tribe numbers, I'd become a threat. So being with returners, Lee was a different story just because it was harder. Lee was more a threat on a social level, and I feel like I needed more physical threats around at that
Mhm.
stage. But I felt returners would be good shields for me. I was willing to work far with returning people. Obviously, it didn't quite work out like that, seeing as the tribes got a little lopsided. But yeah, that's about where I stood with them.
I mean, yeah, speaking of returning players, we start this episode off coming off a successful idol play from Quinn, but also having you burned an idol that you didn't need to play. But you guys were able to successfully get Jacob out, another returning player in the game. And I kind of wanted to ask because throughout this episode, we kind of talk about like the bigger threats uh, who have emerged like within the game. And so, like, why did you guys choose Jacob over anyone else, like an Anna or a Mark?
Anna had immunity for that round. We did try her the round before, but between Jacob and Mark, and this was I think that was a flaw in my game. As we saw Anna say at the start, luckily they went Jacob. I think Jacob was someone that was targeting me. I think I was just a little too narrow minded as soon as the merge hit with where my options were. I think I had more options than I thought. And one of those was with between, I was just thinking between Jacob and Mark, who do I think will work with me on a vote? And I knew Jacob had been throwing my name out and wanting me out since the merge started. And I didn't get to work with, I feel like another problem for me was I didn't get to work with Nikki, who I just assumed was similar to Lindsay's position. She wasn't. I didn't get to work with Jacob pre merge. I feel like maybe if I had time to talk to him, like he felt like a little close to Aziza because they're on the same swap tribe there and got a chance to talk, but I didn't get to talk to him. And Mark, I just looked at him and said, okay, he won the first immunity. I think Mark's my option here where he'll need a shield in me, and I think he'll take me further than someone saying my name, which I feel like I just didn't really think that through as much that Jacob was a shield for me more than they saw Mark as a target.
hmm I mean, yeah, coming into the merge, you talk about options, and you were the one person out of Aziza and Quinn who went to tribal council with Anna and Lindsay in that swap tribe. So we definitely saw in that first merge episode when Jake was voted out that they kind of were trying to bring you in as an ally versus Quinn and Aziza. Like, what was your like thought on like the Girls Alliance and like Daniels as a whole?
For me, I think the animals I could see very much that as an onion alliance, and I think I didn't think I was as close as I was. I didn't think they were really looking at me like as a close ally at that point. But I do think that working with the girls alliance was probably the smarter move. I feel like if I had made my timing better on my flip, that I could have gotten a little further, maybe held the idol as well a little further into the game. But ultimately, I knew that was something I knew at Final Nine. I remember walking back from that immunity challenge, the eating one that Sean won, and I turned around and I saw Nikki, Anna, and Lindsay, and then Mark walking together. And I just looked at them and I thought, that's the four. Like, that's going to be a problem later on. Because I knew from the swap, I asked Anna and Lindsay who they felt most comfortable with on the other tribe, and they said Mark. So that was the one other person we were going to pull in. And I think that was another reason I kept him, which I probably should have gotten rid of him for that, is I felt like we would be on a more similar level with that alliance. So that's more where I stood with that.
Mhm. Yeah, and then so in this episode we have touchy subjects that's played where Nikki wins, and honestly, I think a lot of interesting dynamics were revealed in this challenge. I would love to hear your take about that. Like, you were the answer to the question of the person who was probably most likely heading to the jury next. Like, did you feel like your game was sealed at that point? Like, why do you think it was you over Quinn that people were targeting? Like, what was your mindset after you got that answer correct?
I'm not gonna lie, that actually made me think that I might not have gone home just because it would have been that obvious. But I feel like with the debate of me over Quinn, I think I don't remember, it was over a year ago exactly, but I feel like I could have probably pitched that better. What I was thinking in my head was if Mark and Anna are making the decision, and Quinn is someone who has squeaked by so many tribals as a secondary vote, I think it would make sense to get rid of the secondary vote and keep their primary target to go right after at six, possibly. Where my head was at. Obviously, we saw that the girls didn't completely trust Mark and that Quinn was getting along with them a lot better, and that also Mark really wanted a Vega gone next, which I don't know if I just didn't pitch it properly. I think I thought at the time still that it would have made more sense for at least him to get rid of Quinn than me. But yeah, I feel like at that point, I think Aziza was the only Vega member that was like really a bigger shield than me at that point with all the advantages she had at the time.
Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about the relationship you guys had with Sean as well, because he was one of the maybe one of, if not the only person of the Daniels tribe to like be willing to flip and work with the minority. And we see throughout this episode that he pushes for Lindsay to go home, and obviously you're sent home with 5 votes, but 2 other votes for Lindsay. Again, going back to the challenge, Lindsay wins the question. Lindsay gets the questions of being the person who is the biggest coattail rider, the person who is the most easy to manipulate. Like, so why was the Lindsay vote just to kind of anyone but me, or was there a specific reason why you guys were targeting Lindsay in this round?
That really, for me, that round was anyone but me. But I didn't think we had the numbers that round because I knew Lindsay was after that, like, it wasn't a good pitch. But my headspace in the game was I need to flip Mark on these girls. That's my only real pitch that makes sense to keep me around longer. So I could pitch either Lindsay or Anna because Nikki won immunity. I think I could have also pitched Nikki for that round if she didn't win immunity. But I was thinking, is he going to vote out Anna? And I was thinking of Mark's game, like he just got most likely to win. He needs shield. He wants Anna here. So I think that's why I think there's a scene you saw me trying to talk to Mark and Anna. I was like, we need to stick together for an extra round. Otherwise, we could be 7, 6, and 5. But I think that was more of my pitch there was he's not going to vote for Anna. At least there's a chance he votes for Lindsay. And hopefully he just gets them to vote for Quinn over me or Sean over me. And I think I was just really in survival mode at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, like so you were voted out in a vote of 5-2, and the people who actually voted for Lindsay were you and Sean, and Quinn had actually flipped at that point. Were you aware that he had flipped, or like when did you realize that he was not on your side anymore?
I didn't realize until after I was voted out. I actually initially thought Quinn voted with me, but I loved that I found out Sean later on, but stuck with me. I knew I wasn't flipping on those two. I think it was smart, definitely. I think it was probably more smart. I don't know if it was off camera, but what I did for the Jameson vote actually on the swap tribe, and he might have done this to me, is the swing vote in that situation was Jake. So I went to Jake and said, hey, if you are voting out Jameson, tell me so I can vote Jameson. Otherwise, I will be an enemy going forward, type thing. I was like, we need to like be on the same page for this. And so I didn't know if he did the same thing with Mark and knew Mark wasn't with us because otherwise there's no point in like voting with us. But I think that's very smart to show loyalty to the girls there. If he did completely know Mark wasn't with us, I think it would have been hilarious if we did get Mark and he flipped on me anyways. I think that would have been like the greatest way to go out. But yeah, no, it was definitely interesting. I hope we see more scenes of that. Obviously, I haven't seen anything after this point, so I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I want to talk about like you in the trees, you in the woods. Like, do you think like that painted a bigger target on your back? Like, do you think it helped you find the idol you got last time? Like, I want to know about you in the woods.
I was actually told after I got voted out that right before we left for tribal, I did my final confessional. I don't know if it made it, whichever one that was. I did it about 10 feet away from an idol that I didn't find. So, and I would have probably played that, but I think it helped. I mean, being one of the only ones out there looking. If there was something, I was about 65 to 75% sure I was going to find it,
Mhm.
which I don't know if that helped or hurt me in getting voted out. What I was thinking is like they'd hopefully forget about me in the woods or something. Like I was talking to Shawnee, he's like, "Yeah, go hide in the woods." I didn't know if it was lowering or raising my threat level. It's probably raising it because I could have had an advantage, but I was just really relying on, I guess, him to do something there, or me to find something. I thought there's a higher chance of me finding something than flipping a vote at that point.
Mhm. Was there ever like any thought that crossed your mind about bluffing about maybe having an idol because you were out there for so long that maybe people think you might have found something?
Yeah, I probably should have done that. I thought of doing that. I really thought that I don't know. I guess I just thought at that point that it wasn't really worth going through. Like, I just pulled something like that the last tribal, this whole scene. And I thought if I survived, like, that's more of a next time move. I thought I might have had one more round in me to try to get something. So, I don't
Mhm.
know. I just didn't go for it.
Yeah, so I kind of want to move on to a little game I played, just like a speed kind of thoughts about the cast so far. I'm just going to be doing the people who made the merge, and I'm just going to say their name and then just give me like the first word or like sentence that comes to your mind after you hear that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So first person is Jake.
Bodyguard. I found out he's a bodyguard after the show, and I can't see him as anything but anymore.
Aziza.
Green.
Jacob.
Tribe Strong. I definitely thought of him when I thought of the Humanities Tribe.
Nikki.
Death Grips. I remember she mentioned listening to that, and I don't think anyone else there did. So,
Mark.
like warm, touching. He was like, he's good with everyone. Like, I think in the episode, like talking about Mark, and they mentioned the word warm, and I was like, oh, we're talking about Mark. He was just good with words, and yeah.
Lindsay.
Lindsay, Liberty. I think she mentioned having two ex-boyfriends named Caleb, and one of them went to Liberty. So yeah.
Sean.
Um, a traveler. I remember following him after the show, and he just like flew out to a ton of countries, but he traveled to Vega for a bit, so I respect him.
Quinn.
Quinn. I think calm. I think like every scene I watch with Quinn, I feel like he's always like the level-headed one. He's always calm. Like I guess he's just used to getting votes at that point. But I feel like he was like he got stronger as the game progressed for sure. He evolved as a little Pokemon. It was a beautiful thing to see.
Anna.
Anna, I'd say like charismatic, like she was playing very strongly out there. Final nine, she was almost voted out there, and then she wins immunity next time, and like her name's not even, as you mentioned, why go for Lindsay? Her name's not even brought up this time. And I think she was just really good at like getting people to work with her.
Mhm. I like that you said like your thoughts about like what you know about them as a person. I feel like not many people did that throughout like so far. So I think that kind of speaks to maybe the social connections you maybe built and what possibly got you so far in the game.
Yeah, no, I definitely think at points like the split tribals were probably my most dangerous points. And I think if I could have chosen one thing I could redo, knowing what, even like just knowing what I did at the time, I think I found nine I should have played my idol for Ziza if she didn't play hers, just because I should have gone all in betraying them. And I needed that vote to work to have 4-4 if we had Sean with us. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, I definitely think without the social connection, I probably would have been gone at like nine or maybe the split vote or something.
Yeah. So like you said earlier, we're over a year out from when the season happened. What are your last like final reflections on your experience and like watching yourself play again, like watching yourself play?
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun to watch yourself. It hurts knowing that you're going to get voted out. I know you've been there and then you're waiting for the episode. You're like, oh, there it is. But no, life's been good. I mean, definitely stayed into Survivor. I even got a little Survivor tattoo.
Tattoo.
And Yeah, it was great. Anyone out there who's thinking about doing it, I definitely recommend it. I definitely do it again. It's a good show. It's well put together, and yeah, go pack while I was out there.
Yeah. Well,
Got
it
the
was great
rub.
talking with you, Caleb, and thank you for joining me with this interview.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, thanks for having me.